Welcome to our final episode of Dan Really Likes Wine for 2016. Christmas is done, most of us in the throes of recovery, but also starting to plan New Year, saying goodbye to 2016 and bringing in 2017. And there's only one drink to do that with, and that is bubbles. And we have this week a collection of 4 of South Africa's finest. Now, a quick rider, if you are watching this in France, you might think, this looks quite familiar. Isn't this champagne? Well, no, it's not. In France, you have to call what you make champagne because you're not allowed to call it Method Cap Classique, which is what we have in South Africa and which is far superior. And we've got 4 great reasons to underline that. Now, 3 of the 4 are perhaps not the very top level of the respective estates. This is more the kind of Cap Classique kind of bubbles that you want towards the end of the night. You're hitting midnight, you've probably had a bit to drink already, and maybe bringing out something particularly expensive won't be the best use of it. So the first one we have comes from somebody who really does scream Cap Classique, probably the godfather of South African bubbles. Now, Graham Beck came to global prominence when a guy by the name of Barack Obama had some of this at a dinner to celebrate his inauguration as president. He discovered it at a restaurant in Chicago and decided he rather liked it, and it's not hard to understand why. Now, this is the rosé version of the Brut. The Brut is the staple of Graham Beck. The rosé, just something a little bit different to add a touch of colour and a touch of flair to your New Year celebration. Now, it's important to know how to open a bottle of Cap Classique. If you're a Formula 1 driver and you've just won a race and you've got loads of sponsored product, then it's very simple to spread it out over everybody and let it fizz away and waste rather a lot of it. You probably don't want to be doing that if it's your own bottle that you've paid for. So once you have got the top of it open, and that's a fairly simple process, before you open up the wire on top, what you want is a tea towel. And what I've got here is from the city of my birth, Belfast, and one that celebrates the RMS Titanic. Now, the Titanic went down spectacularly, and I'm hoping that these bubbles will as well. So why do you need a tea towel? Well, once you've got the cage open, I'm not sure if that's a technical term, but it can be for today. Once the cage is open, just make sure it's not ready to leap off and break a light or hit your mother-in-law on the nose, which I've done before and I don't recommend. Then simply get your tea towel on top and very gently just turn it slightly and let it slip out of the bottle. And you'll get that lovely sound, and then you'll get that beautiful, beautiful bit of smoke coming out of the top, and that means it is ready and good to go. And of course, once you've opened a bottle of champagne, one does have to finish it, and these are 4 that are perfect to finish. So this is our first one from Graham Beck. It's a non-vintage, pretty much all Cap Classique, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir combination thereof. And this is a great way to start off the show. And you can see this has got a lovely sort of light salmon rose feel to it, and an effervescence that just screams out, drink me now and drink me in large quantities. So this, if you are planning your drink for 2016-2017 New Year party, I suspect you could do worse. The thing I really, really love about Cap Classique is the way it just bubbles away in your tongue. It just chatters away, and this is a terrific example. The colour's lovely, but it's once you drink it that it really comes into its own. It's very crisp. It's got a very, very light toasty feel to it. Nice and creamy as it finishes off. And it just reinforces why Graham Beck has got not just a big name in South Africa, but a big name right around the world as well. So next up, the Twee Jonge Gezellen, which is an old Dutch word meaning extremely nice bubbles that can be had for breakfast on a regular basis, or something along those lines. Where the previous one was non-vintage, this is a specific vintage. It is 2015, from out in the Tulbagh area. And again, a lovely spot to visit. They've got this great old style, almost feels like you're in a monastery when you go down underground into their storage space. Perfect for storing Cap Classique. Be pretty good for stashing a body, I reckon, as well. But thankfully, this is what they're doing a little more of. Krone's got a superb name around South Africa, and again, for very good reason. So that does happen sometimes, and that's why you keep your fingers on top. It helps if, like me, you are enormously strong, and I was able to contain that. It does suggest that this is a bottle bursting with vitality and bursting with a desire to get out and be drunk. So that's exactly what we'll do. Now, you can pour it a lot more delicately, but I just love when you get that beer-style head at the start that just reminds you how full of life a good Cap Classique is. So this one, the colour is very different from the light salmon of the previous one. This has a far more golden feel, lovely and summery, and if you look closely, you just see those bubbles bursting free from a house that has a very strong reputation. Cheers. Now, just as the bubbles are escaping from the glass as you see it sitting there, so as you bring it up to your palate, just the aroma bursts in and gives you a warning of what's to come, but it's a good warning. It's a warning that you're going for something special. Slight, almost a lemony feel to this one, a little more citrusy, very light, but with a nice full mouthful at the same time. It's the kind of thing that should you, and I would never be in this situation myself, but should you be drinking Cap Classique out the bottle at 1 o'clock in the morning to celebrate the start of 2017, then this might not be your worst choice. Right, on to number 3. And this is an estate and a winemaker I discovered as I have a lot of wine in South Africa on my travels on the Cape Epic mountain bike race when I've escaped the cycling and done far more important work visiting wine estates. Weltevrede in the Robertson area, an area we know from previous shows is rich in soil conducive to Chardonnay. Chardonnay goes into a lot of Cap Classique, this being an example, and so why isn't it going to make great MCC? Now, this isn't the top of the Weltevrede range. They've got a ring, a great backstory to it. Do a little research there. There's a lot of love and romance in the air at Weltevrede. This is their entheos. It's their entry level, I suppose. Their everyday drinking bubbles, and so a really good one for New Year because it's a splendid, splendid example, but it's one that you don't feel too bad about finishing off a case of when you've already had little to drink before that and maybe not appreciating it quite as much as you might the ring, which is their top end one. So it's a Chardonnay Pinot Noir combination, and Philip Jonker, who's the winemaker, son of Lawrence, the owner, he's just got a feel for bubbles. He's a Svengali, and this is his particular brand of alchemy, and it's very good for all of us that he did find this particular space to work with. Oh, and again, there's just a little more butter to that. It's a little smoother, a little softer on the nose. Oh, does smell glorious. Oh. So again, that's a little fuller, there's a little more structure to it. It's again a nice big mouthful of bubbles. And it's again something that slides down very, very easily indeed. Another great celebration Cap Classique, and another great example of why, with apologies to all those people who work so hard in France, we make it just as well here in South Africa. And finally, the bottle I will be seeing out 2016 with. This is, as I mentioned earlier, a new addition to the world of Cap Classique in South Africa from L'Ormarins. You'll know them from doing the marvellously drinkable Optima. And in Franschhoek, they have now produced this. Gareth Robertson, who heads up the Rupert Wine marketing team, sent this up with a smile on his face and suspected I might enjoy it. I've had a bottle before. It is very nice indeed. Now, the reason I'll be having this New Year, when you have 2 small children, you desperately try and scrape towards 1 minute past midnight and then crawl happily into bed, knowing you'll be up at 5 o'clock the next morning to watch The Little Mermaid or Barney the Dinosaur or some equally intellectual piece of television. I will be sharing this with my wife. It is a lovely example of Cap Classique, and it's one made by an estate that's waited its time and bided its time to put together something rather, rather special. That is wonderfully intoxicating. There are times when simply the aroma of the wine almost seems good enough. Of course, then you come to your senses and realize it's most important to drink it as well. And this is a very, very light color. It's a very, very delicate bouquet, and it's a creation that the bubbles are just sneaking up. They're not quite as effervescent as some of the others we've had today, but still most certainly there, and most certainly crying out for a taste. And that'll be the richest of the lot. There's a real delicacy to it. Again, a creamy-ish finish, which you often get, that sort of Chardonnay feel coming through, but a very nice, well-rounded, full, balanced Cap Classique. And that will be the perfect way to say goodbye to 2016 and hello to 2017. I'll actually be at L'Ormarins for a wedding earlier in the new year. We wish Grant and Tracy the very best of luck. We'll be toasting with some of this, but I'll also be toasting with some of it as 2016 comes to an end. All of the Cap Classique tasted today available at danreallylikeswine.com. Nip along, have a look, tell us what you think, and we'll see you again next week. Cheers.